Sad by Design. Lecture by Geert Lovink. Let's dive into social media wariness, the cause of our tired eyes. What are the techniques of resignations that we are exposed to? The blissful ignorance after browsing an entire ecosystem of narratives is not surprising. Culture is a pendulum, and the pendulum is swaying. The organized optimism, hard-coded in online advertisements and other forms of algorithmic advice, turned out to be merely producing anxiety. As Caroline Coles Richard stated, what can't be cured must be endured. The suffering, sorrow, and misery is getting tagged and filtered by our own self-censorship. We've been captured and feel frozen. What we receive is the anger and anxiety of the online other. The growing imbalance in the distribution of digital enchantment is neither causing a revolution or revolt, nor does it fade out. Welcome to the great stagnation. We, the online billions, are stuck on the platform. Once we're locked in, the path to infinity has been blocked. Instead, we're caught in a Truman Show-like repetition of the perpetual now, toiling around in the micro mess of online others that try to do their best, masking their failures and despair like everyone else. The Italian theorist Franco Berardi observes the mental state of today's students. Quote, "I see them from my window," he writes, lonely, watching the screens of their smartphones, nervously rushing to classes, sadly going back to the expensive rooms that their families are renting for them. I feel their gloom. I feel their aggressiveness latent in their depression. In the social media era, the Oblamo position is no longer an option, in particular for those that cannot economically afford to get stuck within the abyss. We experience the sadness of online existentialism minus the absurdity. If only interpassivity was really implemented in code instead of being yet another Austrian idea. We would indulge in a permanent state of indolent apathy. Instead, there's nothing passive about the human-machine interactions. Being on social, the Zen status of detachment is an ontological impossibility. We're never really lurking. Our presence is always noted, and we can therefore never truly enjoy the secretive voyeur status. Interaction is our tragic existence. Instead, we're constantly asked to upgrade, fill in forms, and rank our taxi drivers. These 10 arguments for deleting your social media accounts right now, the Californian theorist Jaron Lanier asks, why do so many famous tweets end with the word sad? He associates the word with a lack of real connection. Why must people accept manipulation by third parties as the price of a connection? According to Lanier, sadness appears in response to unreasonable standards for beauty or the social status or vulnerability to trolls. Google and Facebook know how to utilize negative emotions more readily, leading to new system-wide goal. Find personal ways to make you feel bad. There is no single way to make everyone unhappy. Compared to others, your ranking is low, and this makes you sad. Even technological sadness is a style, about a program. The sorrow, no matter how short, is real. This is what happens when we can no longer distinguish between telephone and society. If we can't freely change our profile and feel too weak to delete the app, we're condemned to feverishly check for updates during the brief in-between moments of our busy lives. In a split second, the real-time machine has teleported us out of our current situation and onto another playing field filled with mini reports we quickly have to investigate. Omnipresent social media places a claim on our elapsed time, our fractured lives. We're all sad in our very own way, as there are no lulls or quiet moments anymore. The result is fatigue, depletion, and a loss of energy. We're becoming obsessed with waiting. How long have you been forgotten by your loved ones? Time, meticulously measured on every app, tells us right to our face. Chronos hurts. Should I post something to attract attention and show that I'm still there? Nobody likes me anymore, as the random messages keep relentlessly piling in. There's no way to hold them. Take a moment and think it all through. Delacroix once noticed that every day which is not noted is like a day that does not exist. Diary writing used to fulfill that task. Elements of early blog culture tried to update the diary form for the online realm, but that moment has now passed. Unlike the blog entries of the Web 2.0 era, social media have surpassed the summary state of the diary in a desperate attempt to keep up with the real-time regime. Instagram stories, for example, bring back the nostalgia of an unfolding chain of events and then disappear. At the end of the day, like a revenge lap, a satire of ancient sentiments gone by. Storage will make the pain permanent. Better forget about it and move on. In the online context, sadness appears as a short moment of indecisiveness. a flash that opens up the possibility of a reflection. The frequently used sad label is a vehicle, a strange attractor to enter liquid mass called social media. Sadness is a container. Each and every situation can potentially be qualified as sad. Through this mild form of suffering, we enter the blues of being in the world. When something is sad, things around it become gray. You trust the machine because you feel you're in control of it. You want to go from zero to hero, but then your propped up ego implodes and the failure of self-esteem becomes apparent again. The price of self-control in an age of instant gratification is high. We no longer revolt against the restless zombie inside us, but we don't know how. We really want to. Our psychic armor is thin and eroded from within, open to behavioral modifications. Sadness arises at the point when we're exhausted by the online world. After yet another app session in which we failed to make a date, purchased a ticket, and did a quick round of videos, the post-dopamine mood hits us hard. The sheer busyness and self-importance of the world makes you feel joyless. After a dive into the network, we're drained and feel socially awkward. The swiping finger is tired, and we have to stop. We should be careful to distinguish sadness from anomalies such as suicide, depression, and burnout. Everything and everyone can be called sad, but not everyone is depressed. Much like boredom, sadness is not a medical condition, although never say never, because everything can be turned into one. No matter how brief and mild, sadness is the default mental state of the online billions. It's the original intensity, and this gets dissipated. It seeps out, becoming a general atmosphere, a chronic background condition. Occasionally, for a brief moment, we feel the loss, and we become aware of the sadness. A seething rage emerges. After checking for the 10th time what somebody said on Instagram, the pain of the social makes us feel miserable, and we want to put the phone away. Am I suffering from the phantom vibration syndrome? Wouldn't it be nice if we were offline? Why is life so tragic? He blocked me. At night, you read through the thread again. Do we need to quit again? Go cold turkey again? Others are supposed to move us, to arouse us, and yet we don't feel anything anymore. The heart is frozen. Let's compare the fleeting sadness in its technical form with the ancient state of melancholy. The melancholic personality seems to suffer from a disease. Unable to act, she withdraws from the world contemplating death and other transient phenomena. While some read this condition as depression and boredom, others reframe this lazy passivity as a creative strategy, waiting for inspiration to strike. Instead of a fascinating derive into the vast arsenal of literary sources, I propose here a digital hermeneutics that shortcuts philology with the eternal presence of the digital that surrounds us. Melancholy, often described as sadness without a cause, has a strong existential connotation. While paying tribute to Kierkegaard, who liberated melancholia once and for all from its medical stigma, describing it as the deepest foundation of the human in a godless society. The problem here is not a vertical one of going deeper, but a horizontal one. The democratization of sadness happens throughout its thin spread across our plateau. Homeopathic doses flatly disturbed via technical means. Melancholia is a thing of the past because there's simply no time anymore to indulge in a wistful state. One could, for instance, defend that techno-sadness still bears the possibility of melancholy. The implosion of the factor time has all but sabotaged the possibility to seriously drift off. Real-time machines constantly draw us back online, capture our attention, and do not allow extensive mourning. Strangely, melancholy requires concentration and focus. Distraction, on the other, is all over the place, and sadness is microdosed. The metric to measure today's symptoms would be time, or attention, as it is called in the industry. While for the archaic melancholic, the time never passes, techno-sadness is caught in the perpetual now. Forward-focused, we bet on acceleration and never mourn a lost object. The primary identification is there, in our hand. Everything is evident on the screen, right in your face. You have it here in your hand. Everything is evident on the screen. While confronted with the rich historical sources that dealt with melancholia, the contrast with our present condition becomes immediately apparent. Whereas melancholia past was defined by separation from others, reduced contacts, and reflection on oneself, today's tristesse plays itself out amidst busy social media interactions. In Sherry Turkle's phrase, we are alone together as part of the crowd, a form of loneliness that is particularly cruel, frantic, and tiring. What we see today are systems that constantly disrupt the timeless aspect of melancholy. There's no time for contemplation or Weltschmerz. Social reality does not allow us to retreat. Even in our deepest state of solitude, we're surrounded by online others that babble on and on, demanding our attention. But distraction does not just take us away from the world. This is the old, if still prevalent way of framing the fatal attraction of smartphones. No, distraction does not pull us away, but instead draws us back into the social. Social reality is the magic realm where we belong. That's where the tribes gather. That's the place to be, on top of the world. Social relations in real life have lost their supremacy. The idea of going back to the village and its mentality of the place formerly known as real life is daunting indeed. So, let's conclude here and ask, how can we redesign the social in such a way that it will become impossible, even unthinkable, for trolls and bots, fake news and so on, that tries to permanently disrupt our thinking and behavior to occur. We cannot spend all the time and energy to reinvent the social without taking freedom into account. Not liberty as defined by right-wing libertarians, but freedom as Hannah Arendt and Isaac Berlin speak about. This is not just freedom from addictive and manipulative software. Can we rethink bots and algorithms in such a way that they become pads and toys, tools that work for us, instead of invisible, oppressive systems that try to deceive and educate us? Technological freedom means the ability to put them aside and turn them off. We no longer belong for tools that suppress us, but we want tools that assist us instead of colonizing our inner life behind our backs. Our sadness will not be overcome with anger.